I am Sherry Warden, President of the Washington Association of Retired School Personnel. I welcome you to today's presentation. So, Amber DeLind is a membership director at Bridge, Michigan, which is an online news magazine combining in-depth reporting of Michigan's public policy and economic challenges with analysis from veteran journalists. It is a product of the Center for Michigan, the state's nonprofit, nonpartisan think and do tank. Bridge attracts more than 1 million readers each year and has earned more than 100 state and national journalism awards. Amber has led the public engagement team at the Center for Michigan, worked as a grant programs consultant for the Michigan Nonprofit Association, and completed 2 years of national service in the AmeriCorps Vista program. She has earned a BA in Psychology and Women's Gender and Social Justice from Michigan State University, and also a Master of Public Administration degree from Grand Valley State University. She is also a graduate of the Michigan Political Leadership Program. As I said, Amber is happy to take questions after or towards the end of the presentation. You can type them in the chat window now, or you'll be able to raise your hand when she's taking the questions. We are delighted to have Amber here with us today to tell us more about Bridge, Michigan, and how it gathers and shares in-depth news and analysis. Amber?
Sherry, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for having me here today. I am delighted and honored to be here. I'm going to share my screen right now so that I can get my presentation started. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about me and how I came to work at Bridge in the Center for Michigan. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Fantastic. All right, so just now that we have that hurdle out of the way, I'll tell you a little bit more about me. So as Sherry said in that wonderful introduction, I am the Membership and Engagement Director at the Center for Michigan and Bridge, Michigan. I also do some of that work for our sister publication, Bridge Detroit, and I'll tell you a bit more about that shortly. But I am, as I said, extremely honored to be here speaking with all of you this morning. As the daughter of an educator, there is not a group of people I have much more respect for than school personnel and people who help kids learn and grow and be safe. It's something that's so important to me. My dad was a 5th and 6th grade teacher who then became a elementary school and middle school administrator. So it's was something that I loved and cherished as a career so from a very young age, and now as a parent myself, know the importance of those who are such important forces in the lives of young people. So thank you for the work that you did in your career and undoubtedly continue to do. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about Bridge, Michigan, our state's nonprofit, nonpartisan news source. As you can see on the lead screen here, we are actually celebrating 10 years this year, which is hard to believe. I actually joined the Center for Michigan in September of 2011, which was the month that Bridge, Michigan launched. It was a much different publication than it is now. At that time, I was working as an outreach coordinator, doing the sort of public engagement work that the Center for Michigan does at that point. So I've sort of gotten to have a front row seat to all of these changes and exciting things that have happened for Bridge over the course of these 10 years. As Sherry mentioned, Mark is keeping track of everything that's sort of typed into the chat. So if at any point during the conversation you have questions about anything that I've said, please type those right in. I'm going to sort of start with a presentation and then about Bridge and sort of what Bridge covers and our public engagement work, take your questions. And then I actually would like to lead a short discussion with all of you about news and your news priorities that will close us out for the morning before I hand it back over to Sherry for the rest of your program. So many of you may be familiar with Bridge, Michigan. I know that a few years ago, one of my colleagues was able to lead one of our public engagement events with this group. So you may be aware of Bridge, but if you're not, I just want to give you a little sense about what Bridge is and why we do what we do. So as Sherry said, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan news organization. Our mission is to provide passionate and rooted Michigan readers with honest, fact-driven news on the state's diverse people, politics, and economy. Our team of award-winning journalists question those empowered, DeLind. Oh, shoot, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to move the faces so that I can see my slides. There we are. Demand answers and analyze complex problems so you can draw your own conclusions and bridge a path to a better Michigan. As I mentioned at the beginning, we were founded in September of 2011, which is just 10 years ago last month. And we are a publication of the Center for Michigan, a 501c3 nonprofit and nonpartisan think and do tank. We were founded by former newspaper publisher and University of Michigan Regent Phil Power. As Phil often says when you talk to him, he didn't see a lot of good in starting something that was just a think tank if it didn't do anything. So that's why he came up with that terminology for the Center for Michigan. The Center for Michigan is actually a little bit older than Bridge, where the center was founded in 2006 by Phil and Kathy Power. And it started doing primarily public engagement work, which we still do, but have added these journalism components. We continue to do what we call some of our achieve work, which is sort of amplifying the views of the public and what we find in our investigations to state leaders. So those are sort of the three legs of the stool. We inform, and that's sort of become our primary product. We engage, and we do what we call the achieve work. Bridge has offices in Ypsilanti, Detroit, and Lansing. I am zooming to you from Ypsilanti this morning. We have a brand new office right on Michigan Avenue, and it's a historic building. It's really cool. So I'm right here in Washtenaw County with all of you this morning. As I mentioned at the beginning, Bridge does have a sister newsroom, Bridge Detroit, which launched in 2020. So right in the midst of a pandemic, they launched this brand new publication. They're doing really great work. So if you haven't checked out Bridge Detroit, I highly recommend it. That it's bridgedetroit.com. You can see right there on your screen. If you don't currently read Bridge Michigan, you want to check it out, we're at bridgemi.com. Both publications are completely free to read, and you can subscribe to the email newsletter so that you can get the content directly to your email inbox if that's something that you're interested in. So I mentioned that we're a nonpartisan, nonprofit news source, and people sometimes think, what the heck is a nonprofit news source? I've never heard of that. Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what nonprofit news is. Bridge Michigan is one of the nation's foremost nonprofit newsrooms with more than 3 million unique readers in 2020 alone. This industry is growing rapidly, but Bridge being 10 years old is one of sort of the elder statesmen in the nonprofit newsroom community. There is a trade association that it's called INN, or the Institute for Nonprofit News. And so that's because I participate in a lot of their trainings and meetings, I've learned about the growth in the industry, and it's a really sort of exciting space to be in. And the reason for that is that, as you undoubtedly know, over the past several decades, there's really been sort of a vast retrenchment in the local news industry, particularly amongst newspapers. As our peers have shut their doors or cut staff back dramatically, Bridge Michigan and many of our fellow nonprofit newsrooms have grown. You'll see if you look on our staff page, so if you went to bridgemi.com and clicked on the about, you can see our full staff there. You'll see that in the biographies of many of our reporters and editors, that many of them have come from print organizations where either those no longer exist or that they've cut back staff dramatically. We've actually recently had some additions from there. We did essentially nationwide searches. We have 2 of our brand new reporters. One comes from Nashville and another from Oregon. So Bridge's sort of reputation as a growing and thriving nonprofit newsroom has allowed us to sort of be well known enough that reporters who come from the for-profit space have known about us and chosen to come and work with our team. Nonprofit newsrooms generally don't rely upon advertisement or subscription dollars for the majority of their revenue. Certainly they may have some of that. We actually don't have paid subscriptions. We do to have a little bit of advertisement and sponsorship, but it's not the majority of our revenue. And there are no shareholders or corporate offices to whom nonprofit newsroom must respond. All of the dollars that we earn go right back into the journalism. So making us different from the for-profit news space. Instead, like as I say, we take the dollars we earn from philanthropic organizations, corporate and nonprofit sponsors, and the generous support of readers, and put those dollars right back into our reporting. And that's kind of where some of the work that I do as membership director is sort of helping to, my role is sort of to be the liaison to all individuals who have relationships with the Center for Michigan, Bridge Michigan, and Bridge Detroit. My goal is to help earn the support of individuals who want to support the journalism that we do, and also help those people, readers and members, have a great experience and make sure that their voices are heard by our team, then their story tips get to our editors, and that any ideas and questions that they have can be answered through one-on-one contacts, and also through events that I'll be discussing in a little bit. One thing I did want to note is that more than 9,000 Bridge readers are current Bridge Club members, meaning that they have donated $1 or more to support our in-depth data-driven reporting in the last year. Bridge Club members really are the lifeblood of our newsroom. They're eligible for a number of membership benefits, including members-only updates from our team, free e-copies of the Bridge Book Club selections, Bridge swag, and more. I do want to note that a member of WARSP has graciously offered to match donations from this group up to $1,000 to Bridge Michigan. And if you'd like to contribute to that fund, the link to do so is right on the screen. And I wonder if I can pop out into the chat and I could drop that into the chat. If not, perhaps one of our team members can help me do that.
I'll work on it.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if I can copy it though. I might have to type it.
Let's see here. I wonder if it's not, I think everyone has trouble with technology. I just don't know where my chat window went.
That's right. I'm typing it right now.
Perfect. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go back, Sherry.
Actually, I wrote it down too, so I should be able to.
Okay.
Just got to make sure I get all the periods. Okay, I believe I have it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So a little more about Bridge's journalism. So Bridge employs 9 full-time journalists, and the Center for Michigan team in total, including the Bridge Detroit team, includes 25 total employees. So we have grown from a twice weekly publication when Bridge first started. It was called Bridge Magazine in those days, and it came out most Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now we're essentially a daily publication with topical newsletters on education, government, health, environment, and business. So those who subscribe can choose to either get the daily email, so they get all the stories every day, or they can choose these topical newsletters if they have certain interests that they really would like to check in on. We also publish guest commentary. So if you are reading Bridge, you'll see that we publish guest columns. We rarely publish guest articles, but we do publish guest columns so that those who have something that they'd like to contribute, an opinion piece, we do publish those as well. Other topics that don't have our specific beat but do get a lot of coverage in Bridge include children and families, specifically education and quality of life issues. We do a lot of sort of storytelling about things that are happening in the state of Michigan and what's going on in communities. Those things don't always fall neatly into a beat, but we do a lot of reporting in those areas. We also do a lot of public engagement work. So Bridge Michigan engages thousands of Michigan residents each year through in-person and through virtual events. I was mentioning to Sherry and to Mark when we were in the pre-meeting discussion is that we have essentially pivoted since March of 2020, pivoted to entirely virtual events over the last year and a half out of an abundance of caution to keep all of our readers safe. And I honestly couldn't have imagined doing that a few years ago. We're a statewide organization, but that sort of technology isn't familiar to everyone. And we wanted to make sure that what we were doing was accessible. So we did and still plan to do a lot of regional travel, but this new sort of familiarity that many Michigan residents and people worldwide have with technologies like Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or what have you has really opened the doors to the opportunity to really meet with Michigan residents or former Michigan residents wherever they are. And it's allowed us actually to have some of the largest numbers of engaged Michigan or participants that we've had ever because we were able to pivot to these virtual events. So we anticipate that we're not going to drop them, if and when we finally get out of this pandemic. We want to add them to our sort of stable of opportunities to interact and gather input from people who care about the state of Michigan, not completely go back to in person, though we do hope that we'll be able to do that very soon. When in previous public engagement efforts that we've had, we've covered topics such as public education in Michigan, Michigan statewide elections, post-secondary education and workforce development, trust in government, specifically state government, roads and infrastructure, water in the Great Lakes. And when we did sort of a short series on, long-term substitute teachers. And so as you can see, there are quite a few that are related to education and children. So I thought that some of those might be particularly interesting to this group. And you can actually find all of those reports on our website. So you can see sort of what Michigan residents have said in previous years and sort of how we've brought those messages to leaders across the state. As I mentioned, we're sort of currently in this virtual mode of presentation to state residents. Bridge hosts monthly virtual lunch break events, which are lunch and learn type sessions that we hold typically the last week of each month. And those are moderated by a member of our reporting staff. And they usually include 2 to 3 experts on whichever topic that is sort of the subject of the day. They always focus on topics that are hot topics or very timely for something going on in the state and something that we've reported on. So previous lunch break topics over the last few months, ones that come to mind are we did a reporting series about youth mental health. And so recently Robin Erb, our health reporter, held a panel about youth mental health and sort of the limited resources for treatment that exist for families and sort of what opportunities there might be to improve upon that system. We've done a recent discussion about the redistricting process in Michigan and sort of helping readers understand where we are now and what the next steps are when it comes to redistricting. In the past, we've done many conversations about various aspects of COVID-19. In January and February, I believe it was our January conversation, may have been February, Dr. Khaldun, the state's health director at that time, was able to join us for a conversation about the COVID-19 vaccine when it was still very new, so that we could answer questions that readers might have about the vaccine. So those are just some examples of some of the topics that we tackle in our lunch break events. We'll actually be announcing our next lunch break topic next week, most likely, and I think it may be of particular interest to this group because I'm quite sure it's going to be education focused, but that's all I can say for now. We did recently, our most recent lunch break topic was actually a bit more of a birthday party. We did a 10-year celebration of Bridge with our special guests included our CEO, John Bebo, our founder and chairman, Phil Power, as well as Ron French, who was the very first writer at Bridge and still is one of our editors now and our senior writer at Bridge, as well as 2 newer members of our staff like Sergio Martinez Beltran and Kelly House. I talked for a little bit. It was moderated by Stephen Henderson at Bridge Detroit, and it was a really great conversation. So if you go to Bridge's website, across the top bar, you'll see a tab for events. So you can watch that or any other of our previous lunch break events. We record all of them and maintain them there on that page. The other sort of virtual event that we are currently holding are our bi-monthly Bridge Book Club events. Each of those is focused on a book with a connection to Michigan, whether that be that the author is from Michigan, that the setting of the book is Michigan, or that it's related to Michigan's life in Michigan in some way. You can watch all the recordings of those as well on our events page, which is bridgemi.com/events. You can also see announcement of future events on that page as well. And for those who are Bridge Club members, they are eligible for free electronic copies of each book that we read for the Bridge Book Club, which is a membership benefit that's really popular amongst our readers. So that's something that we've been doing. And when it comes to public engagement, the purpose is not only to inform the public. The purpose of our public engagement is also to hear from the public what it is that we're missing in our coverage, what it is that is unclear about the issues of the day. Our reporters learn a great deal from our readers. We take questions during the event, and those questions have sometimes turned into additional reporting, something that it helps sort of our editorial team also think through the ways in which some of the implications of some of those big issues that we may not always have thought of when we were initially reporting on a story. And that's part of why these public engagement events are so critical to our work, is that it gives those who participate an opportunity to hear from some of sort of the foremost experts on topics that are impacting our lives here in Michigan, but also gives our reporters a chance to hear from readers what they liked about stories, what they didn't, and what questions still remain. I did mention that we are 10 years old, and as you can see on the slide, we're very excited about it. So please, I apologize for all of the propaganda about it all over this presentation, but it's a milestone that we're really proud of. I don't know that any of us could have anticipated when we joined the team that we would have grown so rapidly. And as we've looked back over the last few years, we found that there are so many things that you forget have happened along the way. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things that are in our 10-year timeline that you may or may not be aware of. And in my kind of final portion of the presentation, you'll see that we're asking a lot of questions of Bridge readers and Michigan residents, because we want to look back and honor this important milestone, but we also want to look to the future and think about what Bridge will become next. So I want to just run you through a little bit of the timeline, just as a reminder of some of the things that have happened over these last exciting 10 years. So Bridge's impact over the past 10 years includes a launch in 2011 to help fill that growing gap in in-depth news coverage as mainstream newspapers endure really a fraying business model and major newsroom cutbacks. In 2012 and 2013, our investigative reporting led by Ron French results in Michigan's 30,000 forgotten 4-year-olds, which was at the time, very groundbreaking report documenting how the preschool program, the public preschool, so Great Start Readiness Program, provides a key foundation for K-12 success, but 30,000 eligible children who, because of their family's income, were eligible for the program were not enrolled in GSRP because there weren't enough classroom spaces, teachers, or resources, because the state had not invested in the program at the level of demand. This actually came from a story tip in our community conversations, our public engagement work. In 2012, we had done a full campaign about education, and I heard in rooms across the state, as did my colleagues, over and over, we really want to have our kids in preschool. We know it's important. I can't afford private preschool, and it seems like there are no slots. I know I qualify, but I don't know how to get my kid into a program. Ron took that, ran with it, and it turned into this really something wild, beyond our sort of wildest dreams of impact when it comes to policy. So in response to this reporting and a statewide advocacy effort by many in the early childhood community, Governor Snyder at that time and the Michigan legislature doubled the size of Michigan's public preschool program, and that expansion continues today, having served tens of thousands of additional 4-year-olds, which is, I will say for myself, one of the proudest things that probably will ever happen in my career, that I was able to have even a small part of that. In 2016, Bridge publishes Poison on Tap, which was the first book about the Flint water crisis. It included an exhaustive timeline built from thousands of state government emails, and the state appointed committee charged with investigating the crisis deems the timeline a fundamental tool in understanding the crisis. And the reporting that we did on Flint earns the McCree Award for the Advancement of Justice from the State Bar. That year, we also earned the Michigan Press Association Newspaper of the Year, Best News Website in Michigan, and 22 additional awards. In 2017, we produced Michigan Divided, a feature-length documentary movie capturing the lives, perspectives, and shared experiences of a half dozen diverse statewide residents split between enthusiastic support for and strong as opposition to President Donald Trump. The film did earn a regional Emmy Award, which is something very exciting. If you'd like to watch it, it's actually available to watch in full on YouTube. If you go to michigandivided.com, there's a link there to watch the film if you've never seen it. In 2018, very large, a big year in state politics, because anytime there's a statewide election for governor and the statewide offices, it's always a year that requires a lot of our staff, and is also a year that we do a lot of coverage about politics, because many people turn to Bridge for that specific type of reporting. And 2018 was just one of those years. We produced a 2018 Facts and Issues Guide and did a statewide Michigan Truth Tour that informed tens of thousands of Michigan voters around the statewide election. We had a mobile news and citizenship van that traveled the state. I was leading that effort. Got to see a lot of people across the state. We had a real dog named Truth Dog who came with us. He's my dog. He still lives with us. I don't call him Truth Dog these days, but who came around with us on across the state to host town hall meetings, discuss local and state issues in local communities. Our Fact and Issues Guide earned the top statewide public service prize from the Michigan Press Association, which is something very exciting. We did launch our full-fledged reader membership program in 2019, which converted previous sort of one-time reader donations into sort of an engaged membership community with thousands of statewide donors. And that's when I became the membership and engagement director, so that I could help sort of do that stewardship, so that to build that community. I'm almost done with this timeline. Just getting to the up to today. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic spurs massive growth in readership as the entire, I'm sorry, just moving this up onto the corner. Bridge staff is devoted to hundreds of multidimensional reports on the health, economic policy, and statewide daily life impacts of the pandemic. We expanded to a 6 days a week publication at that time. And we earned an average of 1.5 million readers per month, which was a 5-fold increase over 2019. It just goes to show that how important local, reliable, fact-driven news is to me. I mean, it was just the ultimate illustration of it, because it was a time when things were so scary and so unknown, and people needed information. Of course, they needed national information about what was happening, but they also needed local information about what is going on in their community and in their state. And it was a time when I felt like as a team, we were we were ready for it, and we were primed for it. And you never know when something like this is going to happen. And we just had exactly the right team to be able to respond to it. And I'm really proud of the work that Bridge did and has done over the last year and a half. As a result of some of that reporting, our data reporter, Mike Wilkinson, earned the Journalist of the Year honors from the Michigan Press Association for his coronavirus coverage, including Bridge's daily coronavirus dashboard. And Health Watch reporter Robin Erb earned runner-up to him as Journalist of the Year for all of the reporting that she had done. And the Center for Michigan launched its second publication, Bridge Detroit, to cover and amplify the issues and priorities Detroit residents deem most important. And as I mentioned, you can read that at bridgedetroit.com. Today, full-time staffing reaches 25 professionals with plans to add several additional positions, including more statewide reporters. We are hiring right now. So if you know of anyone who is a reporter and looking for a way to tell stories either in the education realm, in politics, those are two specific beat openings that we have open. And then I encourage them to visit our site and go to our jobs page. Bridge and the Center for Michigan are aiming to invest in a diverse bellwether Michigan community by opening our new downtown Ypsilanti office, which is where I am today, to serve business operations, newsroom, and public engagement. So that is the timeline. I know that was a lot, but it's hard to believe that it's happened. I just sort of wanted to go over some of the big highlights of the last 10 years. Some of the recent education focused coverage that I thought this group might find particularly interesting is some of the most relevant education coverage that has come out in the last few weeks even are continuing to follow the impact of COVID-19 on K-12 and post-secondary education this school year. So if you go to our sort of talent and education page on our website, you'll see a lot of stories in this vein, focusing on sort of conflicts over mask mandates or that lack thereof, student progress after a year of learning interruptions, declining enrollments at colleges and universities, vaccine requirements for college students, shortage of school paraprofessionals and other personnel, that you'll see a lot of coverage on those topics. Recently, we've done a lot of reporting on the Future for Frontliners program, which offers free community college in Michigan for those studying for careers as essential workers. So that's something that we've covered quite a bit. Other recent stories include sort of what K through 12 schools in particular may do with the federal stimulus support dollars that they received, the ways that may be helping students in the classroom. So those are some of the recent education focused stories that we've done. Before I turn it over to questions to you, I'd like to take some questions from you. And I think I'm going to stop my share so I can see you. And I see that there may have been some things in the chat. So I'll see what everyone had to say, because I couldn't see the chat while I was presenting. So I see a question from Nina. How can you subscribe and how much does it cost? It is all online. If you go, I'm actually going to type the URL for subscribing into the chat window there. If you go there, you can subscribe for free to any of our online newsletters, and you can receive those at the frequency that you choose. Our daily one, of course, comes daily. We have a week in review if you prefer to read on only, just sort of get a digest of what was published. That comes out on Sunday. And as I mentioned, there are a number of other newsletters that are topical. So if you particularly want to get the education coverage, you can sign up for our education newsletter. Same goes for health, for business, for politics, and for the environment. Are there any other questions? You can feel free to just unmute and ask me if you have any.
I have a question.
Sure.
And this has been great, so thank you very much. I think you said there's an office opening in Ypsilanti area. If people wanted to do some type of volunteer work, could they do that by contacting that office?
Marla, that is a great question. And I would say absolutely. Right now, we are, because of the pandemic, we're not having guests in the office, but if it's something that you'd be interested in doing when things get a little less wild, I'm going to type my email address into the chat here, because there are lots of opportunities and we would love to have volunteers back in the office, especially now that we have this beautiful space in Ypsilanti. So if anyone is interested in that, can drop me an email and I will follow up with you when we're back to having an office with guests.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions? Okay, well, feel free to ask me them throughout the conversation, but hey, Mark.
Yeah, wow. You've grown so much in the last year and a half, and partly because of your strong organization and partly because of the great need. What do you foresee in the near future if we remain under these type of dangerous conditions in terms of the COVID?
Regarding sort of our path, or?
Right. Will there be more growth, even more growth?
It's an excellent question, Mark. I'm part of a sort of a team of folks who are looking at the budget to consider some of those questions for 2022 and beyond. And we have our first meeting this afternoon. We are in the great good fortune that nonprofits, none of the nonprofits I worked at previously were in, to be in fairly good financial standing. You know, we have leadership that have been very wise with sort of the way that they've invested in the different beats that we do. There's certainly no shortage of need. I would say that our reporters throughout this have been burning the midnight oil for nearly 20 months now. And I think there's some need for some additional capacity. It's part of why we are doing the hiring. We're hiring an education beat reporter, and so that Ron French, who's our current education reporter, can do more sort of projects and investigative type reportings, and so also editing those projects. He'll still be doing some education reporting, but he'd like to have some additional capacity there. We're hiring an additional capital reporter. We'll be hiring sort of a general assignment reporter that can help, especially our health team, cover some, more. I'm certainly that there will be more COVID reporting, but also some other health topics as well, because there's no shortage. And so I think that the growth will continue, particularly if this need continues to grow. Right now, we're sort of trying to manage growth responsibly. And this is the largest staff expansion we've ever had. We've just hired a fund development associate who works with me. And we'll be hiring those 3 positions and also a sales position for sponsorships. It is, to answer your question, which I've been kind of all over the places, I hope so. I hope that we'll be able to continue to grow, but we're trying to make sure we do so responsibly and are good stewards of sort of the dollars that we receive. But there's certainly no shortage of news topics, especially going into 2022 and another important statewide election year when there's going to be a lot of news to cover, I anticipate. Paul, I saw your hand.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm a subscriber to both Bridge, Michigan and Detroit, and you did an article in Bridge, Detroit, where you reported COVID vaccination rates in the different zip codes in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
That was in June. I wonder if you have any plans to do an update on that, since Detroit is lagging so far behind.
That's an excellent question. And I can ask that question, Catherine Kelly, who's the managing editor at Bridge Detroit, and just let her know that that's something that readers really have been asking about, because you're actually not the only person who has talked about that story, doing an update. So I will bring that to her when I talk with her next week. Thank you so much. It is really illuminating, and it's rare to have data down to the zip code like that.
I think it was even maybe by the census tract. And I'm a president of a community organization, and in my area, we were all watching that information to help us determine whether or not to have in-person meetings. And most of us have not had any in-person meetings unless they've been very socially distanced or outside. So it was really helpful to all of the different community groups in Detroit, and there are thousands. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely. I will touch base with Catherine about that. Thank you for that suggestion. Brenda, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
My question is, are there any programs in place to reach out to high school students who may be interested in journalism?
So that's an excellent question, Brenda. So we actually launched, I will answer your question by first of all saying, no, we don't have any outreach programs in place for high school students. We do for current journalism students in college. We launched our sort of inaugural Bridge internship program this summer, which is specifically for students at Michigan colleges and universities. And the aim is to have internship opportunities for students who may come from underrepresented communities, may come from schools that don't always, they're not, the New York Times isn't coming to call it their journalism program regularly, but there are so many talented students all over the state, and we had just a fantastic group of interns this summer. And we aim to continue to do that program every summer from here on out. And I would love, with sort of the growth and success of that, to be able to move beyond sort of, to the higher ed atmosphere to high schools, especially because, we do get emails from civics teachers, government teachers, journalism teachers, telling us sometimes, hey, I use your articles in my class sometimes. And I would love to find some way to sort of formalize some of those relationships, because it's really, especially as we think about the audience of the future, what's more the audience of the future than sort of the news consumers who are students who care about these issues right now. Judy?
You're muted.
Judy, you're muted.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I wondered, the budget that just passed last week, I think it was, with the mask mandate in it, did that send a really confusing message to everybody in the state? It seems to me that, some schools thought that they had to quit having a mask mandate.
I think absolutely. Actually, we struggled as a team. We had a quick all team meeting about how to cover it, because it did send a confusing message. And I think that smaller health departments, particularly those without a lot of staff, felt as though they sort of had to rescind their mask mandate, or potentially, even though they weren't sure whether this law was going to be binding because of the way that it was sort of inserted into the budget rather than being a law. And they didn't know if they really had the staff to be able to fight it. So it was a difficult issue to even cover. And I think it certainly did create confusion that is still sort of out there. And it is, for that reason, an issue that we're covering very closely and following, because I do think it created a lot of confusion for counties across the state about how to handle. You saw that some chose to rescind, especially larger health departments chose not to, because I think they felt like they had a little more ability to push back if they needed to. So it is certainly it was confusing for our staff, let alone, I think, people across the state trying to figure out what it all means for them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I had just a question or two for the team, and I would love to, as I mentioned, with this sort of 10-year work, in addition to the looking back, we're doing a lot of looking forward and thinking about sort of what do we want Bridge to be in the next 10 years and beyond. And so I've been holding some focus groups with members and with readers to ask some questions about sort of your news needs and priorities. And I'd love to just ask a couple questions in my remaining 10 minutes here. And we'll just have a discussion amongst all of us. I'd be curious to know if there are issues or topics that are important to you or your family or your community that you think that Bridge or Michigan focused news in general is either missing or should cover differently. John?
Yes, I would like you to cover more about campaign finance. It's a part of my report today is going to be about campaign finance. $533 million were spent on Michigan's 2020 election. And that really bothers me an awful lot because people with money can control our government. And I dislike that very much. So I would really like Bridge to have a partnership with the Michigan Campaign Finance Network. I'll repeat that again, the Michigan Campaign Finance Network. They are journalists that do reporting on donations. Unfortunately, right now, we have our Governor Schneider passed laws that allow unlimited secret donations to people campaigning for office. And I don't like that.
I don't care for it either personally. So I appreciate that. And that is something that we cover sporadically, but particularly as we go into this important election year, it's so important. And the Campaign Finance Network they are great sources, great partners for us, but some sort of a an ongoing partnership, I think could be really, really important and is important to reporting on this issue in a way that sort of continues to shine some light on, you know, there are organizations that rate states and their sort of transparency and their campaign finance laws, and Michigan solidly gets an F every year for its transparency in government and its campaign finance laws. And no one seems in a particular hurry to change that. But if more people knew about it, they might be. So we appreciate that. Judy, yeah.
Yeah, I also was going to say the transparency is very weak in Michigan, you know, and that's one of the problems that I think was a problem in Flint, you know, and now in Bedford. And, you know, so the other thing I wanted to say is that our group is really interested in protecting our pensions and our benefits. So if you happen to have information about that, we would really be interested in seeing that. And so
it's an excellent question, and it's something that that I hear a lot about in my household. And that's something that my dad talks to me about quite a bit. I don't know that I have any recent articles to point to, but it will be something I'll bring back to the team, that it continues to be a topic of immense interest, and that continuing to follow that topic would be important to the group.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other topics that are important to you that you feel like you just don't see in the news as much as you wish you did, or you wish it was covered differently? Nina?
I don't know that you're equipped to cover local government, but we need more information about government and school boards.
I think that has been, in my personal opinion, one of the biggest losses in sort of this retrenchment in local news, is that it is, in many communities, and my own included, nearly impossible to find information about what's happening at the city council level or the school board. And for, you know, it's, unless you're able to attend, or if you're lucky that your community televises those things, it's really hard to find out what's going on in your own community, as local newspapers have either gone away or they publish very infrequently. And it's a real shame. And I, you know, as you say, I don't know whether Bridge can solve that right now, but I wonder if there, you know, in the future, there might be opportunities to sort of partner with more local communities the way we were able to do with the formation of Bridge Detroit.
Thank you.
Of course. Donald.
Just probably a bigger thing than anybody can do individually, but just how do we combat the misinformation that gets out there? I was asked, I served as a principal coming back into the field, and got the hit right when COVID was starting. So I was in there when we made the transition and all that, but just hearing from parents, how do, you know, getting those messages out of the actual facts behind things and ways we can do that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think we try to think about ways that we can do that. I mean, especially because, you know, we're not immune to people calling us fake news and, you know, that sort of thing. And there is a lot of misinformation out there. Back in when we were doing that truth tour, we had this whole guide about how to spot fake news. Essentially, you know, how do you know when something is perhaps not telling you the whole truth, or telling you a very specific version of the truth. And maybe it's time for an update on that. Any other things we should consider as we plan for our coverage in 2022 and beyond?
I'm hoping you can get back to the in-person meetings and do one in our area, because originally that's what we were hoping to be doing today, and we would have enjoyed it. And especially when you have the clickers and you get to vote on things.
Absolutely. I miss the clickers. They were my whole life for quite a few years in this public engagement work. That I will say, that is the plan. We are hoping to be able to, we might not do the full, 20-person sort of community conversation meetings, but we are hoping, it's written into our sort of our budget and plan for 2022, particularly in this important election year. We are hoping that we can return to at least some regional events around sort of some of these election related topics in 2022. I think the earliest we'd be looking at for that is probably next summer, just to ensure, I mean, safety is our number one priority. But I think that we hope to perhaps do a few in the summer and then again in the fall, in the lead up to the election, because we will be covering, of course, these statewide races that are happening for governor and for attorney general and secretary of state and lieutenant governor. But also there are going to be some congressional races likely in the state of Michigan that are going to have very large national implications as well. I think Michigan is going to be a big focal point in 2022. So we'll be paying attention and doing a lot of reporting around it and hopefully a lot of engagement as well. Nina?
It's bothering me that Canada wants to maintain Enbridge Line 5, and I wonder what coverage can be done about that from the Canadian point of view to protect our Great Lakes.
We've been covering that issue this week a lot. It is very interesting, and it's going to be something that it's certainly a big focus of our sort of Environment Watch coverage, and it's we will be covering that issue, and we have been and will continue to be quite a bit, because it has such implications for Michigan, the Great Lakes Basin, and really the entire world. So
I'll check it out.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments before I bid you adieu and let you get on to the rest of your business? Judy.
Also, along with that is the Gelman spill that's in Ann Arbor. And I know that that's not the only spill in Michigan, but it's one that's going towards our source of water. Have you done anything to cover that at all?
We have covered the plume a bit, but we don't have any recent updates. So I think that's something, I know the Free Press recently did a really in-depth piece on it, and that I thought was very well done. But I will, in our next editorial meeting, see where we are with coverage of that specific.
Thank you.
We did sort of a historical look at the St. Louis Superfund site there recently, but we haven't done a lot on the Ann Arbor plume recently. So I will talk with that.
I do know that apparently they got the governor and the city council and the EPA all together, and we're supposed to, work together, because I think one was that their lawsuit wouldn't go ahead if they got the EPA involved. And
I see.
And that's what I had heard. I don't know if that's the case or not. So
seems like it might be time for an update on that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, yes, Mark.
Yeah, Amber, thank you for sharing your experience and your insights and your plans for the future with Bridge Magazine. And just a reminder to everyone that's listening, we do have someone who said they would match your donations to Bridge Michigan, and they can simply look at the chat window here, or if you could put up the donate that website again, that would be helpful for us. Can you share that? Okay, that's on the chat window, but I'm not sure if the people that are going to look at the recording are going to be able to see that. Could you put that on a share screen?
Or I can do it, Mark.
Yes.
She sent us the, okay.
I can just one moment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's no hurry. Quality takes time, right?
But I also think they can't just click on it. They'll have to, and I don't even know if they copy and paste it.
Okay.
They might have to type it.
Right. I don't think that's the right screen.
Oh, she's
I see.
looking for it, I think. There we go.
There we go. We'll just leave that up for a few seconds if you would. It looks like it's down at the bottom. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that link actually works. We tested that. A couple of people have done that. So
If we can type
that's
it
good to
correctly.
know. Right. All right. Well, thank you very much, Amber, for this enlightening experience for all of us. And if you're done, I guess we'll give it back to Sherry, our president. Sherry Warden, do you want to finish up the meeting?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amber said she's going to leave us visually, but we'll hang on to hear the legislative reports now that John and Judy are going to be giving us. And they also sent me the reports so that I can screen share it. And Judy, you're going first, I think.
Might help if I unmuted. Okay, yes. My name is Judy Hart and I'm a legislative ambassador for WARSP. In July 2021, House Bill 4411 passed with a 17.1 billion school aid budget to bring comprehensive student recovery to schools as the outcome of the pandemic, designed to close the funding gap between the highest school districts. On September 29th, the state of Michigan budget was passed and it was $70 billion. Sorry. Two bills that have passed in the House that MARSP has been watching as it will directly affect our pensions are House Bill 4263 and House Bill 4734. 4263, it will amend the Public School Employees Retirement Act to do the following. It will adopt a layered amortization, reduce the time frame if there is a deficiency in the actuarially determined contribution, require that the most recent tables be used, and implement a reduced cap for assumed rate of return and discount rate. House Bill 4734 will amend the Public School Employees Retirement Act to provide annuity options for employees and retirees in a defined contribution retirement plan provided by MIPSR. The bill will require that the annuity options allow defined contribution participants while they are employed to purchase an annuity provided by an annuity provider. The option would have to allow the defined contribution participant while employed to purchase a fixed rate annuity and an annuity with a guaranteed lifetime option, and would allow a defined contribution participant while employed to a variable rate annuity. The bill will require the State of Michigan Investment Board to select 2 or more annuity providers through a competitive proposal process. Other bills that MARSP is watching as they pertain to our pension and benefits, but have not passed out of the Senate or the House, are the following bills on unfunded liability and forms of amortization. They're House Bill 4188, House Bill 4261, and House Bill 4375. The next set of bills dealing with that I'm going to tell you about, rid of the senior pension tax or giving some sort of deduction after the age of 67. Those are the Senate Bill 24, Senate Bill 359, Senate Bill 467, House Bill 4002, House Bill 4490, House Bill 4886. Repealing of the pension tax is still in the conversation in the state Senate. WARSP members may want to ask their politicians who ran on correcting this if they still think it's fair that voters on pensions should continue to subsidize the taxes of corporations and the wealthy. There's one other House Bill, House Bill 418, that would give 2 years credit in retirement because of working in the pandemic. And again, that hasn't passed out of the House or the Senate. Another bill we think that WARSP members might have interest in as former educators is House Bill 5097. It would amend the revised school code to stipulate that no form of race or gender stereotyping could be included in a core academic curriculum developed by the State Board of Education or school districts. FYI, WARSP sent out an email to all the Washtenaw County board presidents. The email stated that we, as a silent majority, supported the mask mandates in schools. Please call your senator or representative to discuss the bills that you are concerned about, especially if your legislators do not support public education. You can find out your senator or your representative by entering your zip code and street name at michiganvoters.org or just Google Michigan Citizens Guide, where you can find all the House of Representatives starting on page 32 and the senators starting on page 53. Lastly, the redistricting committee is looking for concerned citizens to speak at their meetings. Please consider speaking to share your ideas. I spoke at one of the meetings and said that I support geographically balanced districts that reflect the political orientation of the population of that region. Make partisan fairness a priority. According to an expert, Lisa Handley, interviewed by US News on October 1st, 2021, the commission, which voters empowered to draw district lines of partisan lawmakers, is expected to make changes voting on the draft proposals. Residents will be able to weigh in on their maps at 5 public hearings from October 8th through the 26th. You can go to Michigan Redistricting Public Comment Portal at https://www.michigan-mapping.org, or you can Google michigan.gov, and they have a header in small print that says SOS/elections/Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. They now have a new name, Michigan Independent Redistricting Commission. Click on that, and there is a space to sign up. I also want to thank all the WARS members who continue to share new information with John and I. It is really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy, for that great report. I was trying to screen share it and I was having difficulty, but it was very informative. John, do you want me to try and screen share yours?
No, please don't, because I keep changing it, and I rewrote everything this morning again.
Great, and I think it's better for us just to be paying attention to you and not get distracted by the print too, so.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm John Boblet. I'm the co-chair of our chapter's legislative ambassadors, and my other co-chair is Judy Hart, which just gave a wonderful detailed report. The first thing I want to discuss with you is the kid killer bills. Now, I didn't come up with that label. Another member of our organization came up with that label, but the kid killer bills are Senate Bills 600, 601, and 602 that were introduced by our own Washtenaw County Senator Alana Tice. They're still active in the Michigan Senate. Now, the kid killer bills will ban school districts and health departments from mandating the wearing of masks in schools. Unbelievable. Senator Jeff Irwin's office receives as many calls asking him to support these bills as he does asking them to oppose them. I can understand that. There's a solid pushback to ending masking in schools in Michigan. Senator Irwin opposes all 3 of these kid killer bills because he feels, and I agree with them, that the legislature should not be involved, and that school districts and health departments should deal with child safety precautions. Our own Washtenaw County Health Department issued a mandate that students should wear masks in schools. My second topic I want to discuss with you today is supporting women in the workplace. I assume that over 50% of our chapter's membership is female, so this is a topic that would affect you and you would be interested in. I assume you've heard about businesses unable to find enough help. They complain about it all the time. Well, there is a reason, because mainly women cannot re-enter the workforce after the pandemic. My own representative, Washtenaw County's Felicia Brabeck, wants to give women the tools to re-enter the workforce. women have been disproportionately affected by unemployment during the pandemic because they had to leave to take care of children and other relatives, maybe their parents, during the pandemic. Now, Felicia Brabeck wants employers to be required to supply women with family leave policies before they take a leave of absence to care for family members. Felicia Brabeck is hoping to receive a hearing on this bill. I particularly am very impressed with her sincere desire to help women. However, our legislature has been unfriendly towards any legislation that restricts businesses. If you watch any of Felicia Brabeck's coffee chats online, her next guest will be our Attorney General, Dana Nessel, at her next coffee chat on October 23rd at 10 a.m. Another thing that I discovered is something about legislators' office hours. Legislators typically are not in their offices on Mondays and Fridays. They're only there on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So if our chapter ever wanted to have an in-person meeting or a Zoom meeting with a legislator, Mondays and Fridays would be good times to do that. However, you can still call their offices if you want to ask for information or leave information. My next topic will be about the National Popular Vote Initiative. If you are asked to sign a petition to fix the broken Electoral College, please do so. This will place an initiative on the Michigan ballot just as soon as we have enough states totaling 270 electors. The presidential candidate that gets the most votes will be elected as the president. However, we've had two recent presidents who were elected that did not get the national popular vote. The National Popular Vote Organization will be circulating this petition, and they need 340,000 signatures. We want to join 15 other states who have already joined this compact. And so if you are confronted with this petition, please sign this one. My next topic, let me add one thing. Only the President of the United States is elected in this manner. I feel as though Americans deserve better than the Electoral College. Most of us don't even know our own electors. I don't know who my electors are, and most electors are party loyalists. The Electoral College is anti-democratic and rooted in slavery, in my opinion. The slave states opposed direct elections of presidents because the North outnumbered the South, whose slaves could not vote. My fifth topic is the Secure Michigan Vote petition. Don't sign this one. Governor Gretchen Whitmer stated that there will be hundreds of voter suppression bills in the state legislatures nationwide. 39 of these voter suppression bills are in Michigan. There is a coordinated nationwide attack on voting rights designed to systematically disenfranchise voters of color, older voters, which includes me, and college kids. Voter suppression bills are being introduced to appease certain bases and earn future votes. Live on stage last Sunday night at the NAACP dinner, Governor Whitmer vetoed 4 of those voter suppression bills to a standing ovation and roaring applause. Secure Michigan Vote petition is another ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Commission, cookie cutter petition drive. This particular petition drive will not allow Governor Whitmer to veto it. So I just love the names that they give these petition drives. Secure Michigan Vote. Presently, Michigan does have a voter ID law. Citizens who forget their identification can, when they go to vote in person, they can sign an affidavit and they can show their ID later. Well, Secure Michigan Vote will ban this affidavit. And it will also ban people from receiving absentee ballots unless you specifically ask for it every time. So decline to sign any petition labeled Secure Michigan Vote. My sixth topic, I only have 7, please bear with me, is about the amount of money spent on the 2020 election in Michigan. Now, we've already brought this up somewhat in Amber's presentation, but $533 million was spent campaigning on campaign advertising for the 2020 election. Unbelievable. Just think what $533 million could do if we spent it someplace else. This is a 65% increase over the 2018 elections. This $533 million is an estimate because it's the minimum estimate, because we don't know how much was really spent, because Governor Schneider signed into law that corporations and individuals can donate unlimited amounts of money secretly. And get this, they can get a tax deduction for doing it, because most of these charities most of these organizations are charities that send 99% of the money to the campaign and 1% to the charity. Voters should ask their representatives to pass laws that limit campaign donations and request that all donations be transparent, as Judy Hart wants, as part of the public record. My 7th topic and my last one, and thank you for bearing with me. I know I'm long-winded. The 7th topic is my brother lives in Southern California, and he has oceanfront property that he's enjoyed and he takes pictures of and makes me feel bad during the winter. But now his property is covered with this black substance called oil. Well, we run the risk here in Michigan of having the Great Lakes shoreline covered with oil. And Line 5 is almost as old as I am, and it's crumbling. It's been dented. We need to ask our governor and legislators, stop monkeying around and shut this pipeline down. So thank you for listening to me. That's the end of my report today.
Thanks to John and Judy for helping us to be aware of these important issues. And thanks to the board members who made this program possible. Mark Davids for other coordination and for relaying questions from the chat, Carol Ladley and Pat Drabant for their great job in communicating with you, our members. An email will be sent to our members letting you know that the link to the recording of today's program has been posted on our WARSP website, www.warsp.org. And I think we can include the donation link in that email so people have something they can click on or cut and paste. Join us on Zoom on Wednesday, December 1st to learn more about effective communication with people with memory loss. Our speaker will be Jim Manji, a volunteer from the Alzheimer's Association and the head of Dementia Friendly Saline, which aims to make Saline a community that respects and welcomes people with dementia. This dementia-friendly program is being shared with other local communities. We will look forward to seeing you on Zoom on December 1st. I thank you all for joining us today. Goodbye.
Thank you.